Coming live from Aurora, Colorado, USA is our guest tonight. Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through the industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Connie Ellefson, and she's an engineer, author, and professional organizer working and helping people release the incredible amount of creativity and energy tied up in unnecessary clutter. And we'll be talking to her on how to declutter body, mind, and stuff for the real you to shine through. Welcome to the show, Connie.
Thank you so much, AJ.
Thank you. Thank you, Connie, for coming on to this show. So, we will be talking about decluttering body, mind, and stuff. There is so much in our lives, Connie. How do you know what to remove and what to keep? So help us understand for our audience, not just in India, but also in other places that the show is going live, and later on people will hear it and read about it and also watch this video.
Great.
What to declutter and from where to declutter? Where is this hard disk where I can cut off things from?
Well, most of us think about decluttering in terms of our possessions because that's what we see. That's the most obvious thing. So we think it's the culprit. And we need to look for stuff that we neither, if we don't use it frequently or even once a year, or we don't love it, then it's clutter. So it kind of slows us down energetically and makes us less creative because we keep getting every time we look around at these things, we keep getting our brain caught on it, and it takes up a lot of room in our brain. But what I realized a long time ago was, because I used to buy all the organizing books and I just loved them and I'd try them all out, and then I'd get about 90% done and I would stop. And then, or I would maybe once in a while I complete the process, but then a couple of months later it'd be back the way it was. So I realized maybe there's something else going on than just the stuff. So I realized that the emotional clutter that causes you to save this stuff or leave it strewn around or whatever, it's much bigger than the stuff clutter. So for some people, that's where you need to start decluttering some of your mind clutter that is emotional and mental, and that clearing that out makes it much easier to go ahead and declutter your stuff. And then I also realized that sometimes we just don't feel energetic enough to tackle a project like that. So maybe we've not been getting enough exercise lately, or we've been eating a bunch of junk food. So maybe our body needs a little declutter too. So that's what I set the book up so you can read it. You can read any section of it that you want. You can ask yourself a question: what seems to be stopping me first? And then you can go to that section. You don't have to read the whole book.
Clear the space, feel the rush.
Right. That's my book. And very recently, I realized right at the end of this very long writing process, I realized you get that rush of energy when you declutter something, when you clean out a closet or a drawer or whatever. You kind of feel kind of exhilarated. And all at once I realized it's the same feeling you get when you exercise, when you go for a walk for half an hour or you go running or something. For a while, then you feel those endorphins going through your body, and it's the exact same rush as when you declutter. So when you have an emotional release, that's like the biggest declutter of all, and usually the biggest release of all, and the rush. The rush is the energy. It's not just about serenity and lotus blossoms. We all look for feeling more peaceful as we look around our space, but there's lots of energy tied up in that you could be using for your own creativity. And when you get all that stuff out of the way that's holding you back, you're almost unstoppable. So that's what I decided to publicize, the rush. I also learned kind of at the end of this process that these endorphins are good for your immune system. They can actually make you healthier. And it's the same as watching a funny movie and laughing. You get endorphins, you get the same pain-killing chemicals going through your body. So it's all good.
Right, Connie. So you see, Marie Kondo is only about that decluttering of your space around
Right.
your house, about your cupboards, about anything. But you talk beyond that,
Right.
about
Exactly.
physical, about mental, possessional. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, why does, obviously you said that we must declutter, but the problem is that people know about it, that
Mhm.
one must be, one must travel light. They've been hearing about this for so many years,
Right.
but they don't, but they still are decluttered, so many of them, and unorganized. So
Mhm.
why is it so hard to, to stay decluttered and unorganized? Why do they want to carry the baggage when you know that you don't need it? So
Right.
can we start from there and understand, so that it almost becomes a step by step for our audience?
It's you, my number one tip for decluttering in all these three areas is first declutter the guilts. Stop feeling guilty about the fact that you haven't gotten it perfect yet. Why haven't you handled it yet? You should have done this a long time ago. There's all this information out there. And realize that there's something in our brains that makes it hard to let go of things. It's almost like a little pain, like a minor burn or a paper cut. It's like, oh, I don't want to let go of that. So you have to set it up for yourself. So I try to make it fun in my book, make it a fun process, and figure out ways to lighten up even your excuse me, even your decluttering process. You want to make it as fun as you can. But you have to start small. You have to start with stuff that you don't have a lot of emotional attachment to. And then once you get over that first hurdle, which you might ask some friends to help you with, you might ask them to call you once an hour as you're decluttering to make sure you're on track or you're making some progress. And then you start to feel that little tickle of exhilaration, that rush. And then it gets more and more fun to go ahead and let go of things. As you open out the space and you feel the energy that's released from all that stuck stuff, it gets to be something you look forward to instead of something that you dread. And in the case of, as I mentioned in my book, maybe you don't want to start with your stuff. Maybe you want to start with your emotions, or you want to get some exercise or change up how you're treating your body so that inspires you. When you feel energized from exercising, you may come home and say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and tackle that junk drawer today. So on one hand, it's just kind of a way to coax yourself into starting, because that is the hardest part in almost any endeavor. And then on the other side of it, realize that decluttering is not a one-stop process. Just like you don't eat one good meal, one nutritious meal, and then you're good to go for the rest of your life. You just have to keep eating those good meals along with whatever else you eat, but try to err on the nutritious side, or you don't just resolve some emotional issue and no other stresses ever come at you in your life. Realize that life is busy for almost everyone. So unless you're just on it constantly, you're going to have to pick things up and put them away once in a while. In fact, pretty much every day, or else it piles up again. So just don't get mad if it's not, oh, I got this all organized. Why doesn't it stay that way? You're probably not going to stop buying new things. You're probably not going to stop receiving gifts at holidays or on your birthday or whatever your tradition is. So don't beat yourself up about it. That's the key in all these areas.
Right, Connie. Right. Now, you see, let's talk about uh, mental or possessional clutter. Possessional, you mean possessions,
Yes.
physical possessions. So let's
Right.
talk about mental clutter. We can give it different names. We
Okay.
can tell it emotional clutter, mental clutter. How do you look at memories? A lot of people consider such uh, clutter uh, as memories.
Right.
Human beings are made of memories. You are the sum of so many people that you have come across, and especially, your family, your friends, somebody is special. And that is what you keep on accumulating in your mind, in your
Mhm.
hard drive, whatever, in your heart, anywhere that you have that space for.
Right.
And then you come to a point in life that they become you and you identify themselves with those.
Right.
And then they read about decluttering, about mind, about memory, about emotional clutter.
Mhm.
How do they differentiate between memories, even if painful memories are also part of one who one is? So how
Exactly.
do they differentiate between uh, memories as well as mental clutter or emotional clutter? How do they walk this thin path? Because if they remove that, then there'll be nothing left in their life. How do they do that?
No, I would say we're all way more than just our memories. We're our hopes and dreams, and we're what we've learned and what we like to work at, what we enjoy as hobbies. Those are all part of you as well. And what I and a lot of other organizers do is we ask you, how would you like to be spending your time? How would you like to spend your life? If it's just like trickling around your household, trying not to get lambasted by this or that stuck energy, or if you'd rather be out sailing, or you'd rather be working on your favorite craft or whatever, how could you set your house up so that you spend your time doing that? And in the meantime, of course, you have to be gentle with yourself. As you said, a lot of these items that we have are tied up with memories of our family that have given them to us. And I had to laugh recently because I had a decorative item that had been given to me by a relative several years ago, which I kept because I thought she would be unhappy if I gave it away. And she noticed that I didn't have it anymore. And so I mentioned the item to her, and she said, "What?" she didn't even remember having given it to me. So some of it's in our heads. It's not coming from the other person. So
Okay.
we have to let ourselves let go of those things. And if you really want to make sure that you want to remember the person, you could take a little picture of it and print that out or put it on your computer or whatever. So you haven't completely lost track of the visual clue, but I can guarantee you that you're never going to forget that person, even if you still don't have the memento that they gave you, because, like you said, that's what makes up our character and who we are. A part of it is our memories, so that's not going to go away just because your stuff goes away. In
Right.
fact, in fact, if you get rid of some of the things, and most of the things that we have around are not in that category, they're just things that have shown up in our lives, either gifts or free things or whatever that we don't really love or use. So that stuff, separate that out from your very favorites. Like Ms. Kondo says, you gather up all your books or whatever, and you put your favorites on one side and your less favorites on the other. And then when you look back and forth at the two, you go, oh yeah, I don't really need those, or put them in a box for 6 months. And if you even think of them in that entire 6 months, then maybe pull it back out. But if not, you can go ahead and donate it. So there's all kinds of strategies that you can help yourself go ahead and get over this hurdle of letting go of things. And in the meantime, you can do stuff for your emotions, such as very simple things like journaling or writing a gratitude thing where I do this every day. I write down 5 things I'm grateful for and 5 acknowledgments, 5 things that I'm proud of myself for doing. So it keeps you realizing how wonderful each day is and how wonderful you are. So you don't have to focus so much on those past memories. But it's
Right.
the rush of energy is pretty exciting. And then when you get your household set up to where it's organized to give you the freedom to do what you'd like to do with your time, then it's completely worth it. Another thing that I realized recently is it doesn't really take as long as we think it is going to take. We think it's going to take forever, but your stuff is limited no matter how big your house or how many things you have. Eventually you're going to get to the bottom of it. So just keep rooting for yourself and cheering yourself on and letting go of any guilty feelings that come up, because they're just made up in your mind. They're nothing real.
Right. Right, Connie. What about stress? Things that give you stress, things that you want to get rid of, but you don't know how to. They are not products or some sort of thing that or memento you can just put it aside or throw it out. It is difficult. It's all there in your mind.
Mhm.
So, can the person do this decluttering herself or himself, or do they need a professional for that, especially uh, uh, in terms of mental issues, if there is something like, but there is no mental health problem, but still it's all in the mind. So
Mhm.
how do they go about? Can they do it yourself? Can they read your book and get that enough understanding of taking that first step? And secondly, what do they get in a house? You can get that empty space, you can do so much, you can start running within that whole space, you can do that. But what about the mind, that hard disk that becomes empty? What do you do with that space? What do you put in there? Because sometimes empty mind is a devil's workshop sometimes.
Yes, I recently learned more about the quantum field, which I hadn't known too much about. But one of my little techniques that I talked about is sitting for 10 minutes and doing absolutely nothing, not
Okay.
really meditating or praying or thinking, but there's all kinds of unconscious energy in or knowledge in the universe that can come into your mind if you just let it sit there and be clear. Not, and of course, don't beat yourself up if thoughts come in your head, but there's lots of information to just be mined from being quiet. And if you're looking around at your space and it's nice and calm, or you're looking out the window at something beautiful in nature, then it's easy for inspiring ideas to come into your head. It's much easier than if you keep frantically worrying about everything all the time. And it just takes practice, but it's extremely easy. So I talk about techniques that are super simple that you can completely do yourself. Journaling even helps because it releases that same endorphin, that same pain-killing chemical. Sometimes you may be able to talk to your friends. Sometimes you may want to talk to a counselor. And I'm all about energy healing because I realized one day that if you look at the E equals mc squared equation that Einstein came up with, no matter what your weight, the amount of energy in your body is enormous, considering that one element C is the speed of light. So the speed of light squared times your weight is the amount of energy in your body. So I thought, I bet energy healing works a lot better than lots of other stuff we might try. So I talk about several energy healing techniques in my book. Most of them you can do on your own, and some that you might want to work with a professional on, especially if you've had a lot of trauma in your past. So there's lots of options. And one thing that was made clear recently to me by someone else is that no one really knows why one individual wants to keep something or doesn't want to let it go. So there's nothing that I can tell you that's going to be, this is the perfect way. You just have to figure that out for yourself. And we probably all have that wisdom inside of us. We just don't realize it. So clearing the space for that wisdom to come through is the main object of clearing the mind clutter. And as always, first declutter the guilts. Don't feel bad if you don't get it right the first time or even the 50th time, because you have another chance. But what's beyond it is very exciting. So yeah, to take your time to do these things, it's important, and it's something you should do every week or every day, even some little part of what your passion is, because that's what makes life worthwhile. And if you say, I'll do that when I get everything else done, Just like I'll save some money is after you get everything else paid off, then it'll never happen. And if you don't take some time to do your passion on a regular basis, that will probably never happen either.
Right, Connie. Right. Now, see, you are an engineer.
Yes,
Then you have written books on unrelated topics, ethnic baby names, xeriscape gardening. Have I pronounced it correct?
that's right. Very good.
Okay. Right. And now decluttering your life.
Right.
Uh,
Well, yeah.
right. Tell us a bit about this and how did this decluttering part, how did especially this book we are talking about, how did this idea come into your life?
Uh-huh. The baby name book I wrote when I was pregnant with my one child that I bore, and I was looking for a Norwegian name to go with my ex-husband's and my Norwegian surname, Ellefson. So I'm like, let's have a book about that. And I wrote about the immigration history to the U.S. from each country. So I was basically trying to do my part for world peace, to let people know that parents everywhere want the same things for their children, and just having some knowledge of other people's names and what they mean can increase your tolerance for other people, your welcoming to other people of other cultures. That was the main purpose of that book. And then I'm really into conservation. So Xeriscape is all about low water landscaping. And I wrote 2 books on that topic. So that's about having a beautiful landscape without having to put a bunch of water on it. So Clear the Space, Feel the Rush is about energy conservation. It's about conserving your own energy to do amazing things, the amazing things you'd like to do. And you may not even think of them until you get rid of some of the stuff.
Right. Right, Connie. And how is this book different? There are several books on this organizing your life and organizing your home and everything. So
Right.
how is it, if somebody asks, it's just one more book, how is it different than other books available at the moment?
Well, I love all the organizing books. As I said, I've got a bunch of them myself, and I've read many. I love them to pieces, and that's what I realized when I started doing some organizing. My engineering career sort of tanked for a while because it goes up and down with the housing market in the US. And so after I got laid off 4 times in 6 years, I thought, might be time for a new career. And then I realized that whenever I cleaned up my desk after a project was done and put everything back away, that was my favorite part of the project. So I thought maybe organizing would be good. And then that's when I realized that it's never just about the stuff. There's a lot more to it. So that just gives you a lot more options to help you work on that. And so that's my book is about all 3 of those. There's many different basic suggestions, some which you might have heard before, but then others will have a little twist that you might not have heard. But the big thing is I tied it together with the rush, the endorphins. Like everybody knows, it feels kind of good to declutter, but they don't know that it improves your health. So it's extra worthwhile. And if you focus on that part of it, then you have just one more incentive to go ahead and make that effort.
Right, right. And who should be looking at buying it? Who is it book largely for?
It might be for busy families that have kids around and life just seems overwhelming. It might be for people in my generation that we're done with our accumulation stage. Now we're trying to go the other way. But the bottom line of the rush is I'm going to tell you my big secret, my big bonus tip at the very end. So I was lying on the ground looking up at the trees doing Shavasana in a yoga class a couple of years ago. And the music was very soothing and the instructor's voice was very soothing. And it's the end of the class. I'm just lying on my back. So I'm like, oh, this feels so good. The tree's so beautiful. It feels so good. All of a sudden I thought, wait a minute. It's not that stuff that's making the endorphins in my body. It's me. I'm the one that's releasing those endorphins. And then a couple other things happened to make me realize that I could turn those on anytime I want. I don't have to declutter. I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is turn those endorphins on, and it's under my control. So you can be happy. You can improve your immunity by just being happy. And
Absolutely.
decluttering is a great way to help yourself feel that way and get started or continue or whatever. But the main thing is realize how much you have under your control already. And you might not think you do, but you do.
Right, Connie. Right. And where do people get this book of yours? Clear the space, feel the rush. Where can they buy this book?
It's available in bookstores pretty much around the world. And of course, it's on the online bookstores as well. Right now, it's available as an ebook, paperback, and hardback. Eventually, we'll have an audiobook too, but those three editions are available.
Right, Connie. And is there a website of yours? How do they connect with you if they want to know more about you, connect with you and get a better understanding about what you are doing next?
Okay, great. Yes, I have a website. It's called clearthespace.com. That's ClearTheSpace.com. So there's reviews on there and other information. You can also order an autographed copy if you want from the website. That may only be available in the US, but you can definitely order a book through the website as well.
Absolutely. Now, after 3 books, what about the next one? What is it that you are aiming for the future?
Well, part of what took a long time to finish the book was I just kept learning new things that I'm like, oh, I should put that in the book. So now I'm thinking there might be Clear the Space 2.0 with all the new things I've added since then. But in the meantime, I would just like everyone to feel that they realize that they have a lot more power than they think they do, and that it can be fun and add to your enjoyment of life instead of your worry.
Right, Connie. Right. Great. Thank you so much, Connie, for coming on to the show. It's a pleasure to host you on this show and sharing all those things, and especially not just about decluttering your house or anywhere where you live, but also the mental space, which is so much important, and the guilt part that one can start from. Thank you so much indeed.
Great. Thank you so much, AJ. It's been a pleasure.
Right. On this note, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. See you soon.